Dean Devlin, the original writer of the 1994 Stargate movie, has been talking about where he would have gone with parts 2 and 3 of the trilogy him and Roland Emmerich wanted to make. Thank God it didn't happen. Welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So it's fair to say the actual premise of Stargate is a little silly. Basically, the idea for the first movie and the question that is answered in the first movie was, did aliens build the pyramids? Now, a lot of ancient astronaut theorists have said this for a long time, that the pyramids are just beyond our capability to have built 5,000 years ago, or perhaps they're much, much older than even that. So perhaps they were built by aliens. Now, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was probably aliens. So it's fair to say that the original movie was based on an extraordinary premise. Now, the SG-1 series, Atlantis, and SGU, to a much lesser extent, did explore the mythologies and the mysteries of our planet. They explored lots and lots of these. You know, they did explore the Egyptian myths and all of the different gods, etc. I mean, at the end of the day, all the gold were the ancient gods. The idea is that these gold were really those gods, and those stories just became mythology. Now, that in itself is a slightly extraordinary, borderline silly premise for a TV show, but it was done so well and so subtly that we just loved it. But what was going to happen in parts 2 and 3? Well, the big question for part 2 of the trilogy that Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich planned was, why are there pyramids in the Mayan culture? So that film would have been, I imagine, quite similar actually in lots of ways to SG-1. But instead of, an Egyptian god in Ra, it would have been a Mayan god. And it would have tied in a lot of the mythology from the Mayan myths. I do wonder if somehow they'd have tied in the 2012 myth, the story where the Mayan calendar ends in 2012, and there was a big belief that actually that was going to mark the end of the world. I wonder if Roland Emmerich ever did a movie that explored that. Oh yeah, he did. So that would have been a big possibility for whatever direction they'd have took that movie. It's the third movie that I'm a little bit more, is that going too far about? So in the third movie, they were going to try to bring all of these different things together. And the two examples that Dean Devlin brought up in an interview recently was that the Yeti would have been in it, and so would have the Loch Ness Monster. And that the movie idea was to bring all of these extraordinary myths and stories from around the world and to get them to make sense. Now, I'm in two minds about that. In one hand, Stargate was always about the extraordinary. If you actually break down a lot of components of the series and think about it logically, it's kind of stupid. But it was done so brilliantly that, we didn't care. On the other hand, the Loch Ness Monster and the Yeti, they were going to bring both of these things into the movie, and probably an awful lot more. I don't see in my wildest dreams how that would have worked. And I can't help but think, thank God it didn't. Now, in 2015, there was a plan for Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich to come back and potentially actually make these movies. Now, that didn't happen. But could it in the future? Well, I get asked this a lot because, I don't know if you've noticed, but on this channel, we talk about Stargate quite a lot. I've been very, very lucky to actually have an insight into what's going on at MGM and Amazon, and to find out exclusively and first a lot of the information about the Stargate revival. Now, we're very, very close to actually that getting finally officially announced. But what is going to be announced? Well, Roland Emmerich a few months ago actually said that there'd been conversations with MGM again. Because if they do a movie, they would have to bring Roland Emmerich back in. He's actually contracted with MGM that if they do a cinematic release of a movie, he should be involved. Now, he can decline to be involved, but that's the current standing. Now, he said he's not particularly interested in that project because it seems that the TV audience is what is important. Now, that filled us with joy, because if Roland Emmerich's involved, I'm a little concerned because he's not exactly done great movies since Stargate. He's done, there's a couple of highs in there, but an awful lot of lows. So I don't want him to have any creative control within a new Stargate movie. But it sounds like he doesn't really want that creative control, because he's not going to be allowed to do the original movie trilogy that he wants to do, because the TV audience are what matter. The audience of SG1, SGA, and SGU. So Amazon have enough sense not to annoy us gators and not to do a hard reboot of the series. Now, talking to people at MGM and in and around the industry, I'm very confident that is not the plan. The plan is to do a continuation. Now, anybody that thinks that means that canon won't be affected is going to get disappointed. Like anything where there's a nearly 20-year gap between a show ending and a new show starting, there are going to be differences. There's going to be a new team creating the Stargate series. They're going to want to inject some of their own ideas into it. That is just the reality of making TV and making movies. And as I've told you repeatedly, the plan does seem to be to do a cinematic movie of Stargate first and to follow on with a larger franchise. That cinematic movie, though, will be a continuation of the SG1, SGA, and SGU storylines. Yes, there will be differences, but on the whole, it's going to be a proper continuation. There will not be a reboot in sight. So all we can say is thank God Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich did not get to make their trilogy. We wouldn't have got SG1 when we did. And I think it's fair to say that for most Gators, we love the movie, but it's SG1 that's in our hearts, and it's SG1 that matters. So, Dean Devlin, thank you for your contribution to the Stargate world. You wrote a brilliant movie that then Brad Wright, Robert Cooper developed into an even better series. But as Roland Emmerich says, it's the TV audience that matter. So thank you, but no thank you. We don't want the trilogy. We want a continuation of SG1. But guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think about some of these ideas Dean Devlin has been talking about. Do you think it is maybe a little bit of a disappointment we didn't get the trilogy that then maybe would have turned into a TV series? Or actually, is it perfect the way it went? And you know what? We came that close in 2015 to getting this trilogy. Maybe it's a good thing that we didn't. But guys, get into the comments and tell me exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out, and you'll never miss any of our new videos. You can also go to side-trek.com, where there's brilliant merchandise like this, and you can actually pick your SG1 team. You can get it on a mug, you can get it on a t-shirt, you can get it on a hat. Also, you can go to patreon.com/sidetrek, where you can see most of our new videos first. And for a small contribution each month that really supports the channel, you get to see it without the adverts. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.